sorry.
Okay. You want to share it out a little bit?
Yeah. I think that's, yep.
Hey, we're live now. Sweet. Hey, friends. So my name is Rolf. Welcome to the first episode of the Louisville ProActivist Report. So I know you have seen me on here a couple of times. I don't go live a lot, but we decided it's finally time. I'm gonna do the show and make it official. So yes, welcome to the show. This is an interactive show. Please share it out if you like this kind of thing. Send me your questions. I've got a great guest for you tonight. So really looking forward to this. So just before we get started here, I want to talk about me just a little bit, who I am, what this show is about, and you know, what we're doing here. But you know, my name is Rolf Reese. I'm here in Louisville, Kentucky, hence the Louisville ProActivist Report. I look at news from a left perspective. I am an independent progressive, anti-establishment. I do not roll with the Democrats. I do not roll with the Republicans. I'm just all about the people, all about truth. I'm a guy that likes to read a lot. I watch a lot of videos. I do a lot of research. I talk to a lot of people. And, you know, I get into a lot of stuff. So I just kind of want to share that knowledge with people. Also, I want to introduce people. You know, the audience to people who are doing work out there. So, you know, we really want to show people who are out there trying to make a difference, who are being proactive. Who are out there to get things done, some change makers. So, you know, so I've got a couple shows lined up. This is my first show, which of course means my first teaser. So stay tuned to the end, and I will let you know who I'm having on next week. Really excited about that. So, first teaser. So what this is about, you know, if you're locally, you're working on some things and you want to get on the stream, you want to really get the word out, come and talk to me, come be on the show. If you're an activist, an organizer, political candidate, political comedian, you know, if you're running for office, if you doing anything to make change, if you're helping people with drug addictions, helping people with homelessness, you know, you're a hemp farmer, anything like that, you're union leader, you know, or if you deal with organic food, you know, I want to hear from you. Anything like that. Hi, Ramred Bud. Good to see you. Hi, Donald.
Hey.
So any of those things, if you know anybody like that, if you are somebody like that, please let me know. We'll get you on the show here in the future. This show's not really about me. It's for you all. I want to get people on here, and I want you to get to know them. And I want you to see what people are out there doing for society to make things better. So that being said, that's what we're going to be doing going forward. I have a really great guest tonight. He is a friend of politics and stuff. You've seen him on here before. I've done a couple of interviews with him. He's a personal friend of mine. He's a political progressive comedian touring the country. And he is a social vigilante. So what I'm told, yeah. So he's out there doing things, doing big things. So that's Krish Mohan here.
Hello.
And,
how's it going?
You know, so he just got finished with the show. It was a great show, hilarious new material.
Thanks, man.
We wanted to do this show inside, but it is really busy and really loud, so we kind of had to go out here to the car. Otherwise, you guys couldn't hear us. So that's why we're here in the car doing this way. But it is what it is, so we're gonna make the best of it. You know, so let's have a good time talking about a few topics. We got several topics lined up tonight. Please throw your input in, ask your questions. We'll get right to it. So let's go ahead and get started with this thing, Chris.
Yeah.
Good to see you back on the show again, man. Thank you so much for coming on, being the first official guest of the Louisville ProActivist Report.
Big deal.
So
yeah.
That's
I'm very happy to be the first one.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. So beyond all that, Chris is a really smart, you know, really informed guy. So he's going to share some of that with you tonight.
I'm going to try. I'll do my best.
All right, that works for me. That works for me. So since you've been on last time, you've been through a few changes, man. I know you got married.
Yes.
So I guess I have to call you Mr. Mohan now. Is that what I have to do?
No, not at all. Yeah, I got married. Liz Victory. She's a musician, and we're both out of Pittsburgh, and we both kind of talk about some similar topics, and a lot of it has to do with equal rights and class warfare, stuff like that. She sings a lot of protest songs. She was at Occupy, so we kind of line up politically speaking in a lot of ways, and we also disagree in a couple things politically speaking, which is fine because we don't want to kill each other because of it. We'll get into like heated arguments, but like that's that's sort of natural about it. Oh hey Greg. So
Greg.
Yeah, and then we just went to India for our honeymoon from middle of February. We literally skipped Valentine's Day. We flew through Valentine's Day and through through the time change. Like, we didn't have to deal with February 14th this year at all. Which I was like, if we have to do that every day where we don't have to deal with this commercialized garbage, I'm totally fine with it.
Right.
But yeah, man, India was a lot of fun, and it's just like, it's very different than what's happening here. Politically speaking, I mean, I don't know if the accurate statement is to say that India is more conservative than America is, because it's like they're both pretty much conservative countries. That there are a bunch of people that are on the side of progressivism that are constantly fighting and trying to I guess make the country better for people. Yeah, it's definitely a lot. There's these little nuanced stuff, like it's like India doesn't know what to do with its trash, but they also have a lot of really interesting sustainable things that they have in place, like these tiny little things, like wooden spoons, for example, is this, so it's like there's not this pileup of plastic spoons or anything, but there's a ton of bottled water in India because our water supply is not awesome. So there's all these weird little drawbacks. So it was interesting to kind of see that these little tiny things that are different, and it's like, it's hard to say whether it's good or bad. Like, you can't I don't know if I can make that assessment. I can say that it's different. I can say that there are problems in both countries that totally need to be fixed.
Right.
Yeah.
Answer this question here real quick. Ram Red Bud, my name is Rolf. I know you were asking. I've been with PAS here about going on 2 years, I'd say. If you see a post on PAS signed with an R, that's me. So thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you like what you're seeing. So getting back to India, I know you just spent about a month there, right?
About a month.
Yeah. So you were born there.
Yes.
And then how old were you when you moved here?
I was 8. So it's a different perspective, and every time I've gone back, it's like you get a little bit more you get like a little bit more of a piece of the puzzle of like trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Which is good, because you try to understand like how things are set up. And that's sort of what I think we're all trying to do here, is we're trying to figure out, like, how's this system working? So I think that's sort of this new goal that I have, is to try to understand how certain things in India are working, like politically speaking, like, it's like I talk to certain people and they're like, oh, these private corporations are great. And it's just like, what is happening? Like,
right.
That's not what people in America are saying. Like, these private corporations are fucking horrible. Like, they're buying out water supplies and poisoning cities. And they're like, no, these guys built a library. And it's like, what world are we living in right now? But again, it's like, you hear that from somebody, and it does trip you to be like, oh, why are people saying that XYZ? Like, there's this corporation called Tata in India, which makes cars, and they're a manufacturing company. Like, they're a global manufacturing company, but they seem to be like they are the biggest corporation in India. And it's just fascinating because they're everywhere, right? But from the general gist of what I got, just from like, this is hard to just go in and be like, hey, tell me what you believe about this thing, right? Like, people are gonna get weird about it. But from like the general gist of like getting a little bit of information, it sparked both me and my wife to be like, what's going on with this corporation? Like, why are people saying positive things about this corporation? And, you know, there's like stories about how this guy, the CEO of the corporation, like, won't fly first class. He will sit and coach. You know, so like little things like that. That's interesting. You know, you don't kind of see a whole lot of CEOs.
No, that's not happening over here.
Yeah, like
what's a coach? Like, is that one of those big planes that has a bunch of people instead of just me and you know,
it's a handbag.
My crew here? So
it's a handbag here.
Yeah.
So, stuff like that is interesting. You know, it's like you don't trust state. Some of it's like, oh, if it's state run, then you know that it's going to be mismanaged because the government is so corrupt and poorly, like, there's no management structure within the government. But it's also like, hey guys, give us a break. We've only been figuring out like how government systems are supposed to run for like 60 years and not 200. You know, like, America's got 200 years of this really interesting government structure to run, and we found a really great way to fuck it up, like, and we're doing a great job of that. Like, you know, like, we had 200 years to like find ways to get it right, and then we were like, no, let's go the opposite direction though. Like, so give India a little bit of time and they'll become like a really good corrupt government system, like a really awesome.
It just takes a little practice, you know. You
yeah.
can't just jump right in there and be corrupt. I mean, you got to start at the bottom and work your way up. So
yeah, you gotta give them some time, you know, let them practice a little.
So on the flip side, is there something like politically that you think India's doing really well? Maybe something America could learn from on any front?
Yeah, I'm trying to learn more about it. I'm trying to learn more about like what the parties are all about, and it's hard because it's not the traditional thing that we're used to in America, like the voting structure and everything like that. So it's very different. So I've only gathered a little bit of information from being there and from coming back and, like, you know, spending time listening to different commentators that are there, like, from India. Like, I just found a guy today that was talking about the BJP, which is technically the right-wing party.
Right. That's Modi's party, right?
It's Modi's party, yeah. And Modi's the Prime Minister of India right now, which, by the way, it was so funny when all that... like, when he got elected, like, everybody freaked out. And, like, England and America were like, come and visit us and we'll throw you a parade. He's, like, really confused as to why they're doing that. But he's from a very pro-Hindu party. So technically, like, they're a Hindu nationalist party is what they would be called. But it's like, you can claim that the Republicans are, like, Christian nationalists, right? So it's not too far. And they are conservative. But from what I can gather, he's a very eloquent speaker. He speaks really, really well. And there are a lot of different programs in place to get rural areas into the 21st century. Like getting villages electricity, getting, like, information out to these people, getting voter blocks out to these people. So, like, so they might be conservative. They might be super religious. And they might be incredibly superstitious, and they might be very nationalistic, but it seems like they're trying to do some progressive things in order to try to get people that don't have access to running water, you know? So it seems like they're trying to help people, which is what you should be doing as a politician. Right. There is horrendous shit that he did. Like, he did support a Muslim massacre, and he came out and apologized for it, and the Muslim community was like, okay, in order to like get past this, we have to offer you, you know, to accept your forgiveness and offer you redemption and see what you'll do for the second, you know, for your second chance. So again, it's like they might be the conservative party, and that might be very true. But what conservatism means in India is probably vastly different than what conservatism means in America. So
Probably,
you know,
more natural conservatism and not so much corporate conservatism, or
yeah,
is that fair to say?
yeah. From what I've gathered so far, and maybe, you know, in 6 months I'll message you and be like, I was totally wrong in that video. And you know, but you know, I'll post some comments about like I've been wrong. So, but from what I can gather, it seems like it's more fiscal and religious and traditional conservatism, rather than this corporate conservatism of like I'm not hearing a lot of the rhetoric of the socialist boogeyman in Indian mainstream news. Like we definitely watched some like the India version of like CNN and Fox News, which again we had a really hard time deciphering which was which. Like we were watching this channel and we're like, is this the Fox News of India or is this the MSN? I'm not sure.
Right. I'm not sure when I watch those two channels here.
Right. Yeah.
Actually,
Well,
I don't
you can
watch
tell.
those two channels here, but yeah.
It's very easy. MSNBC is going to throw out conspiracy theories about Russiagate, and Fox News is very, very open about their lies. So
Right.
there's a little bit of difference, you know? Is it a conspiracy theory or is it just them bragging about lying?
Now in India, there's pretty much two main parties. So would you call it a duopoly, or are there some smaller, like, are there smaller parties doing better than the Libertarians and the Greens here, or is it basically a duopoly?
It seems like it's a duopoly. In order for Parliament to work, half of Parliament needs to, or I think a little over half needs to be the same party as the Prime Minister. So I think 51% of Parliament is the BJP, and then the rest of the Congress Party, which I guess would be like the Democrats. But again, from what I can gather, there's still people that are like, no, the Congress Party is a bunch of bullshit. So, you know, it's very difficult to kind of pigeonhole where things are. It seems like it's not as black and white as people might want it to be.
Yeah.
Where I think there are still people that kind of come out here and they're like, no, but the Democrats are good because they're Democrats, and people come out and they're like, no, the Republicans are good because they're holding family values because they're Republicans. I think it's very difficult for people in India to make that kind of a distinction, and it's very difficult for me, from what I've read, to make that kind of a distinction too. I do know that people panicked about Modi specifically because, you know, being a Hindu nationalist, does that mean that he's not going to let foreign corporations into their country and like build
that.
stuff? I think he's put some restrictions on them, because I think Bayer had a problem getting into their country.
Like they let Monsanto in there, but they've also restricted certain things, like I believe it was the BT eggplant, which they call something else in India, a specific eggplant, but it's eggplant. But I know they blocked that based on seed patents. So that was actually good news.
Yeah, and I remember there was a fight for Bayer, because Bayer's like, was it Bayer or Westinghouse? I think it was Westinghouse, but it was a corporation that was like surrounding Pittsburgh. But they were trying to build a power plant in India, and I think there was enough protest that they backed off, which was great, because again, it's like India's not really a country that you think about protests and like secular thought and all this stuff, even though everybody's fascinated with India, right? Like everybody in the West is like, I want to go to India, it seems so cool, and it's like all the shit. It's like, but nobody attributes India with this vestige of like secularism and activism and a country that's growing and developing and like for progressive human rights, because that's not really what people talk about. I think people like to think of it to be this like Shangri-La utopia kind of a lovey-dovey kind of place, but it's not. There's a lot of problems, and there are a lot of people on the ground that are fighting to make sure those problems are not problems anymore.
Right.
It's GMOs being one of them.
Yeah, like Vandana Shiva. If y'all haven't checked her out, one of the top organic activists. She really speaks out on Monsanto and not just in India but worldwide. So if you get a chance, check her out, Vandana Shiva. If I'm saying that right.
It's close. It's fine.
Close enough. Yeah. I speak a couple languages, but not that one. So yeah.
I think there's like over 50 languages in India. So,
I speak zero of those. Zero.
I've done some reading about the GMO problem in India. I know rice farmers have lost a lot of land, and like they commit suicide because their whole life is being a farmer. Their whole livelihood is being a farmer, and you get a company like Monsanto, which is acquired by Bayer now. It's not Monsanto, it's Bayer. That's hilarious.
Bayer Santo, yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny to me that Bayer bought Monsanto, and they were like, "You guys are such shit. We can't even add your name to the title."
Right.
Like,
and this is from a company that made money from the Nazis, and they're still like, "Yeah, we can't even mess with
we
you.
Can't put your name on there.
Like we have our history, but man, you guys over there, so
you guys are fucked up. We can't add your name."
I mean, you're hurting our sales. You're hurting our sales built on Nazi money. So, come on, guys.
Understand how bad you have to be to fuck up Nazi money? Like, come on.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Like that's. Monsanto was causing farmers to commit suicide because like you took your livelihood away.
Right.
So that's also a global problem because there's a lot of farmers, I think in Venezuela, that were because of like cross-pollination. They would take over farms, and then they would spray their pesticides and stuff. And what little bit of farms that they had left, like they were getting poisoned, and then the farmers would get cancer, and that's because of whatever pesticide Monsanto was using that was developed in their freaky little labs.
Right, and I read up a little bit on this today. That they're creating a monoculture there too in their farms, which is a problem we have here. But looking at it through Monsanto, yes,
yeah.
Instead of just having nature produce everything, you just strip that land. You put that one crop there year after year. It destroys the soil, the top level.
You gotta rotate.
It's just not natural, and it just hurts things, But what I was looking at is there's basically 4 main crops in India now because of Monsanto. So half their crops are the BT soy, and then like a third of them are the maize, and then the rest is like the cotton and the canola oil. So you're taking this huge country that can produce all types of different agriculture, probably a lot of stuff I'm not even familiar with personally, and you've reduced this down to these 4 crops now. So basically 1% of their crops, from what I saw, were not those 4 things. And that's just amazing to me for a country that size with that large of a population.
Yeah, you should be able to produce a variety of crops, and I think the climate in India is conducive for a variety of things. I remember taking the train in India with my wife, and that's the trains kind of don't, it's not the same way that Amtrak runs. It's not going to go through cities. Like, it's going to kind of cut around the countryside and stuff.
Okay.
And we saw rice paddies all over the place, but I don't remember them being like huge rice paddies. Like, driving through the Midwest here is like you see giant farms. A lot of it is corn,
soy.
They're huge. It's miles and miles of it, and that's not what it is in India. Like there's maybe a square kilometer of rice paddies, and it's they're not vastly grown. And if a corporation like Monsanto had come in and basically acquired a bunch of land from these farmers and told them they can't make their livelihood here anymore because we're going to control this, and then we're going to basically destroy the soil because you're supposed to rotate crops. That's sort of the natural way things work. Right. I think Robert Rodale in the 70s I remember reading about this when I was doing talking about like organic foods and stuff like that. But he talked about like regenerational farming, which is basically like you just grow different stuff. Like you can grow crops at the same time of the year, but you have to grow different stuff so that the crop doesn't like demolish the soil, because that's what it'll do. Like it won't. It's not a. It's a long-term battle, not a short-term battle. And the way these companies are looking at it now, it is a short-term battle. Anything that you're looking for capitalistic gain is always in the short-term battle, which is proof because, like, even if you look at like how companies have grown and not thought about their employees and not thought about just like, if you don't pay your employees enough, there's not enough money like being pumped into the economy to like keep the economy running. So like, how do you make that happen? Oh, we'll just invent credit. Like we'll just make up even more fake money. Like, so it goes against the natural order of things. So yeah, rotating. So having a company that's like, oh, we're gonna make 4 major crops out of one of the most innovative countries of all time,
right?
Which India is. It just doesn't make any sense.
And it's going to hurt long term too, because year after year, that monoculture. So if you have that maize on your farm every single year, in a few years, that soil's not going to be any good. There's not going to be any nutrition in the soil, and you're basically just going to have dead land for a few years that you're going to have to work hard to get it back to grow anything. So we need to get out of that monoculture, and of course, that's less profitable for the corporations. It's real easy for a corporation to come in and just say, hey, you've got X amount of acres, just grow our soy, grow our corn, grow our canola, cotton, whatever it is. But it's just not sustainable long term.
It's not. Not in the least. And if you want to think about like, and it's one of those things that's very disappointing, is because if you think about what genetically modified organisms were supposed to be, they were supposed to kind of be the cure-all to our food crisis, which is a made-up thing anyway. But
right.
There are countries
distribution is the problem.
Yeah, distribution is the problem. But they were going to try to fix it, in the food end anyway. But it's not a bad idea. If you want to grow a certain corn, like, okay, let's say we discover that we don't have enough water in the world to keep making rice. Okay, can we make a strain of rice that uses a third of the water but grows twice as fast? Great, awesome. Like that should be in our radar. Like that should be something that we can think about. So as a concept, it's not bad. It's just what we've done with it.
Right.
And there's the concept of like suicide plants with what Monsanto has done too. Yes. And they've it's like that should not be a thing. Like you should not grow a plant just for the sake of like one growing season. That's so antithetical to how nature operates.
Right. Like, that's the problem. Yeah.
And anything that operates against nature is antithetical to sustainability and survivability.
Nature's had thousands of years to figure this out, and
yeah, and we're gonna come in and
let
be
it do what nature does.
Yeah, you've been wrong about how you've been growing living things. It's like that is the most arrogant statement any species could ever make.
Right.
And human beings are just like, nope, we're gonna keep saying it.
And I'll say this about GMOs: the concept of GMOs. I'm not against the concept, but it's the execution that has happened. Mm-hmm. When you have one company, Monsanto, take it over, you got to remember this is a chemical company. This is what they make their money on, is chemicals. So at some point they had to figure out how they were going to continue to make money, and they've done that with pesticides. That's why they've taken over the seed industry. They've ingrained these pesticides into the seed, so you can't wash this stuff off. Then they sell other pesticides such as Roundup, the glyphosate, to make more money. And so we're essentially letting this company make money, profit off of chemicals, and they're doing that by controlling our agriculture, our seed supply, and that's a losing combination. That's one of the biggest problems I personally see out there. What do you think about that?
The controlling the seed supply.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's a bigger
yeah.
problem as we,
It's the
as we
core
have.
of the problem, I think, but again, that kind of goes into the point of like we've kind of seen like Monsanto's lost the battle, because if you're going down to controlling the seed supply, like, no, this is not the proof of the concept.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you've lost the battle.
Right.
You're stretching to try to make money and not try to make a decent food supply for thousands and thousands and thousands of people that need food, which is the point of what GMOs were supposed to be for, right? So it's just...
And even with that, they haven't shown to produce a greater yield. And in a lot of situations, they actually have, the organic crops are producing as much or more of a yield than the supposed GMOs are supposed to do.
Right, because they're probably growing it a better way.
Right, naturally.
Naturally, yeah, without poison being pumped into things.
Yeah, so, oh man, I had a question for you, but now I don't. It's come and gone out of my brain. So, so you have anything else to add on GMOs there?
No, I mean, again, concept is good. It's just what we've done with it, and for the sake of trying to make money, is sort of how these concepts die. And the more they kind of go down that rabbit hole, the more we can see like the proof of concept, or the proof of concept dying, right? Like them kind of exploiting what it. And again, it's like you're trying to control seeds. That's crazy. Like, you shouldn't be controlling the seeds. You should be renewing seed supplies, not trying to control how much should be out there. It's ridiculous to me, and it's so antithetical to like how things are supposed to work, and it's so antithetical to us surviving on this planet and keeping it sustained. Because, if we don't go extinct, nature will figure out a way. Like,
right.
It'll eventually figure it out. And I think going against that sort of stuff is not, it's not helping. And so we need a new system in place.
One of the things that kills me about that system, it's just, they've basically cut out, what's been going on for hundreds of years was saving seeds every year. So with the Monsanto farmers, when they sign that contract, they can't save the seeds. They're obligated to purchase again from Monsanto every year. That's not what farming is. That is... when they say Monsanto is trying to feed the world, that is not feeding the world. That is controlling the food supply.
That is, yeah, that's...
And nobody, not one person, not one corporation should control the food supply for all of us. I shouldn't have to explain why that's a bad thing to people. But that is essentially what is happening right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating, because that's kind of what we have to do, is like... There are people that have bought into the idea of corporations, that have bought into the idea of trickle down, which is why they support big business and big companies like Monsanto, that are essentially killing the planet for the sake of profit. And we have to sit there and be like, no, let me show you how we're all gonna die this way. Like, which you shouldn't need to explain, because it's like, it's right in front of them. But again, I think, but that is sort of the fight that we're in, is if you can grab those people that have sort of pledged their allegiance to these corporate ideologies and be like, hey, whatever these ideologies you've kind of aligned yourself up with don't seem to be working, and it's bad for you, that's the fight. I think that's a fight worth fighting, because at the end of the day, if you convert even one of those people, it can become a domino effect, and it can become like, and I'm using the word converting because I don't know what other word to use. It is kind of bringing them and being like, here's what the truth is. And if they kind of go, yeah, okay, I see it, and it sucks, and I don't want to be part of this, it's like, good. Here's what we can do to fight this shit. Right. Like, even one person is totally worth it. And, how you're going to do that is not telling them that they're wrong, idiot pieces of shit. It's, hey, you've been lied to, and we've all been lied to. And it sucks.
It does. So we've got a couple of comments here.
Oh, cool.
Paul says NBC News reported that 10% of all beer has trace amounts of pesticides. I saw that as well.
Sweet.
It's in the wines as well right now. So beer and wine, you never know what you're going to get there.
Just drink straight liquor is what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm saying.
Just go straight.
Just go rum. That's what I've been drinking tonight. Not just that, but it's been traces of glyphosate have been found, in nursing. Mothers that are nursing in their milk.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty much in all the rain samples that are being tested, and pretty much 100% of that. So you're getting rained on. You're getting rained on by glyphosate. So keep that in mind.
And that's one of those things. Is like, how do we get rid of it? Well, it probably starts with not using it anymore.
Right. That's it. We got to ban it. I mean, there's no other way around it.
And yeah, I'm not. There's certain things where I'm like, I don't believe in banning stuff. Like, like this is a lot of people don't like my opinion on this, but I don't know if banning guns is a solution to getting rid of gun violence. It seems like maybe we should go and look why people pick up a gun, why they decide to use it on another individual, and that's a psychological argument. We can go down that rabbit hole, but it's the same thing. It's like,
topic
why are
for
these...
another day, right
yeah,
there.
Yeah,
another day.
that's a whole new thing. But whether you disagree with me or not, banning something is a really difficult thing to get change out of. And in this situation, yeah, maybe we need to ban it because maybe we need that extreme solution because nothing else we do seems to be working, and nothing else we do seems to be an idea we want to try. So fuck it. Yeah, ban it.
Yeah.
We gotta ban this thing because we're not responsible enough to fucking use it.
Right.
I
agree.
Like when your mom's like, oh yeah, here, I bought you a lighter because I think you can handle fire. And then you burn the shed down, and it's like, no. You're not allowed to go near, like, candles, or matches, or lighters, or the stove.
Can't even rub two sticks together around
rub
here.
two
yeah,
sticks
we're gonna
together.
cut you off on that.
All sticks are banned. We're banning you with sticks, like, because you burnt the shed down, and you were supposed to be responsible with this, and you prove that you're not. Like, so, I'm not fully. I don't think that banning things is always a solution, but sometimes if human beings aren't responsible enough with some shit, yeah, fucking ban it.
Right.
Until we can prove it.
So are you aware of GMO milk? I have a comment here.
I am not familiar with GMO milk.
Ram Redbud says, Fox News, GMO milk, big story shunned. So I don't know anything about that either, so
that's going to go
definitely
on my list.
drop a link if you have one.
Yeah.
Wait till after the show, though. Keep enjoying the show, hopefully. If you have a link, drop that down so we can look at that. I'm not familiar with that, and I'd definitely like to check that out. Yeah,
that'll be on my list of stuff to look into.
But yeah, I'd imagine, if with glyphosate just sprayed everywhere, if you have cows eating grass, they're gonna ingest it, and we're gonna get that milk. We're gonna eat that beef. It just is what it is.
And if it's gonna get into the water supply, then it's eventually gonna trickle into the natural water system, and that'll evaporate and go in the atmosphere. And it's all a chain reaction. Everything is kind of connected, and it's like that old lesson that you learn back in middle school about the food chain and the life cycle of things, and it's like how quickly we forget that. And it's like this basic lesson that you learn that you should kind of hold on to and realize, like, oh yeah, no, that's kind of teaching us that we're all kind of connected,
Right.
That's why you should do drugs and relearn all these lessons.
No comment from me. No comment from me. But I'm all about learning lessons, so either the hard way or the easy way. So yeah, let's move on from the GMO topic. Let's switch it up a little bit. Thanks again, everybody tuning in. I really do appreciate that. Share it out if you like what you're seeing. So let's switch it up to something completely different. Although kind of just slightly India related, I guess. But let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard a little bit. I say slightly India related. she does have some things going on with Modi in her past, and of course her Hindu background. But beyond that, not really too related. But that's the best I got for a segue.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your opinion
Hindu
on her in general?
I like her. I think she's one of the people that I'm actually excited about. Not just because I'm Indian, but she is vehemently anti-war, publicly anti-war. She's a veteran, so that kind of adds. And to me, that's not a new thing. I know plenty of veterans that are anti-war, that are anti-military industrial complex. So that kind of excites me, is like, we have this public conversation that, you know, we have somebody that's kind of like we can rally around. She's had some questionable things that she said about torture in the past that have been brought up and criticized. And what she said from that, there's an interview from 2014 where she's basically like, I don't really know how I feel about torture. Like, she's kind of ambiguous about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think her ambiguity is a little bit of a concern, but she hasn't really readdressed it since then. I haven't really seen any new articles, videos, or statements that have popped up from her mm-hmm. in regards to that. I don't think torture is necessary. You know, I'm sure there was a point where it was necessary, maybe. I don't know. I'm anti-torture. Like, I don't think that's a way that you can get information. And if, you know, especially like more or less psychologically, what they've proven is like, it just makes people bend to your will, you know, like, so it doesn't really work. And then she's come out and apologized for making the statements that she did about gay people, the LGBTQ community. I think she's apologized like several times.
Yeah, I know a lot of progressives are really trying to drag her down for that. She does have a 100% rating with the Human Rights Campaign, whatever you think about them, but...
and then her policies kind of dictate that she's very pro-LGBT, you know, so...
I haven't seen anything since she's been elected that shows her to be homophobic anyway. I mean, not to say that in her own private life, but I personally haven't seen it since she's held office, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's real tough for you to come out and...
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. I think it's real difficult to come out and, like, really hate a group of people, but then vote to, like, benefit their community.
Right. That doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, that's some real tough mental gymnastics that you gotta fucking deal with there. The jobs in the back. Yeah. We got a bunch of the jobs in the back. I'm glad you remember the joke, Jeff. But even then though, when I saw a bunch of progressives and liberals trying to bring her down for that, I was just like, it was upsetting, because I'm like, it's all about the identity politics, and you can't let go of one thing that she's apologized for, that she's changed, and there's a 100% guarantee that at some point in your life, whether you were 10 or 15 or whatever, like, everybody's done some weird homophobic shit or some kind of a racist thing. Like, I was homophobic when I was probably 12, because I didn't know any gay people when I was 12, and the only thing that I'd heard was, the rhetoric of like, oh, they're bad for you, or whatever the fuck it was. Whatever crazy shit was going around. And then my friend came out of the closet, and I was like, oh, well, he's not bad. I hang out with him all the time. So it was like, I didn't really give a shit after that. After that, it was... And then it came out as bi, and he was basically like, it doesn't matter the gender of who you love, it's just the person. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a beautiful lesson to learn when you're 13.
Right.
And just discovered masturbation. Like, that's a pretty cool thing to learn, right? I should have asked you if you were trying to keep this show clean.
No. But, we are censorship free here, so okay. Always censorship free.
But like, so to me, that was kind of a bullshit thing. She stood behind Bernie and stepped down from the DNC.
Right, that was impressive. Because it cost her party funding and everything. So
yeah, man, and look at who's going after her now. it's basically everybody that's being funded by the DNC.
Right. And the military-industrial complex.
And I think Jimmy Dore might have said this on her show when they were talking about her. That you look at who's don't just look at her policies, but also look at who her opponents are, like who's trying to drag her name through the mud,
right?
You know, or something to that effect.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know, and it's like the people that are trashing her are mainstream establishment candidates, and a bunch of people.
Gatekeepers is what I call them.
Gatekeepers.
They just don't want to let any change in. They just want to block you right there.
Yeah, and a bunch of the people that kind of believe in identity politics are the one, like, they can't let go. They're like, oh, it's not a genuine apology, and it's like, what, dude? Look at her voting record, and like, you gotta let this go because there's so many other positive things about her.
Right. There's so much irony from her smears as far as identity politics. Because in 2016, you know, you had to vote for her.
Right.
And, you know, if you didn't vote for her, you were sexist. You know, it's all about identity, you know, as far as minorities, religion, gay culture, trans culture. But here we have Tulsi, a Hindu woman.
Practicing Hindu.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you can't vote for her. But somehow that doesn't make you sexist. That doesn't make you anti-Hindu in their eyes. You know what I mean?
No, because they got Kamala Harris.
So if you support Tulsi, you know, it's totally different than supporting Hillary as far as the identity politics goes. But
right.
One of them is genuine, and the other one is Hillary. So
yeah,
people need to learn that difference.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are kind of hitting her hard for you know, having relationships with Modi, and I think like one of her representatives was at her wedding or something.
Yeah.
Which again, it's like she was in charge of foreign relations. Like that was one of her jobs.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why she wouldn't have some sort of a friendly relationship with Modi. Especially because there are so many corporate interests with India, so wouldn't you want to have a friendly relationship with, you know, the leader of a country that you're trying to do business with? So, all of that kind of seems bizarre to me, and like I said, it's very difficult to gauge, you know, what is good or bad, or what is conservative and what isn't. Yes, Modi isn't perfect for India. Does he have some interesting ideas? Absolutely. Some maybe kind of having in touch with this guy and having regular communication with him and being a practicing Hindu gives her a little bit of an edge to maybe push him a little further to the quote-unquote left or the American left, whatever that might be. So yeah, man, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Also, again, if you want to criticize her about the Hindu nationalism thing, specifically because she's kind of supporting this very vehement, you know, pro-Hindu guy. Again, India is a very superstitious country. India is a dominantly Hindu country, and she is the first Indian American politician in America, which is one of the largest political, you know, political stages in the world. And Indian people finally have some representation. And if you want to hold on to that representation and want to get any sort of political support from Indians, you kind of have to play a little bit of that religious game, right? Like, I'm not running for office, so I can basically criticize organized religion, whether it's Catholicism or Hinduism, and be fine. I'm not trying to gain votes, you know, but
right.
She's trying to gain support, and she's also trying to be a mainstream, you know, figure of representation. India sleeps with guns? I don't know if I understand that.
JSC, just in case.
Just in case. Yeah, I just think it's, you know, but it's also like it's very early to make calls like saying that, oh, her, you know, her support with Hindu nationalists makes her an XYZ. If we had a fucking Joe Rogan had a New York Times journalist that called
Barry
her
Weiss.
Toady. Yeah,
Yeah. Didn't know what it meant. Couldn't spell it.
Yeah, it's like even the fucking people that are trying to attack her don't know what the fuck they're attacking her for. It's just like,
My take with Barry Weiss, I've seen her on a couple things now, and unfortunately, and I feel like I'm dumber for it. But after seeing that, I'm not sure she's an actual journalist, and by that I mean obviously she's not. But by that I mean she might be one of those people whose job is literally to be given an article and put their name on it. Like she literally had no. Tulsi Gabbard came up on a Joe Rogan show, and she had no idea what was going on. Monstrous policies. Well, name one. Nothing. She's a toady. Well, what's that? I don't know. Spell toady. I don't know. So what's your problem with Tulsi? I don't know, but she's terrible and you can't vote for her.
Yeah,
Thank you, Barry Weiss.
We've just been told.
Like, you work for the New York Times and you have no idea what you're talking about. So either you're not a real journalist and you're putting names on articles, or you were just told, hey, you can't support Tulsi, say she's a monster, and just move on. And that's basically where she's at. And she makes I don't know what she makes a year in salary, but it's a lot more than I make, and and she's doing absolutely nothing for that, you know. So Barry Weiss, you will never see this, but if you do, you are not a real journalist. Please stop what you're doing.
Yeah, that was kind of a disappointing.
Yeah.
But it was insane to kind of watch that, and it's just like, what in the hell is happening? Like, that is one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Even Joe was stunned. He said I enjoyed talking to her, and she said, what do you mean? It's like, what do you not understand about enjoying having a conversation with another person?
Yeah, and Joe's very, I think, you know, with Joe Rogan is like, he's very, very middle of the road. And he's very, like, he kind of knows how to play into making people feel comfortable in order to, like, get deeper with him. I know a lot of people don't like him because he's something about him being like alt-right adjacent or some crazy.
Well, I think
shit
because
like
he's friends with oh my god, I just blanked out on his name. Infowars guy.
Oh, Alex Jones.
He's friends with Alex Jones. He had him on recently, but I mean,
that interview is bonkers.
You can have friends from all sides. I have friends left, right, center. So you know.
I got a bunch of conservative friends.
People need to get over that, you know. Just stay out of the bubble.
And it keeps you balanced. It keeps you it keeps you, you know, even if you disagree with people, you know how to civilly have that disagreement and learn how to, you know, really stand for what you stand for. And it gives you, you know, it gives you an understanding of why you stand for what you stand for and how to communicate that to people. So I think it's a great thing. And it's also, that's how you change people, right? It's like, you might have not considered it from this angle that only your conservative friend could have brought up. You might have not considered it from this that only your libertarian friend could have brought up.
Right.
Because they're in that world. And now you get to bring them into a little bit of whatever world that you want to be in. So, yeah, I think it's a positive thing. But, and that's another thing with Tulsi, is she is a veteran that can talk to these super pro-war, you know, nationalistic rah-rah-rah people and tell them from the point of view of an active duty veteran that is now an anti-war politician why these regime change wars and why these interventionist wars are not good,
right,
and why you shouldn't support them, and why what America has been doing for the last 40-50 years has not been, you know, in the interest of these other countries and preventing, you know, authoritarianism and all that kind of stuff. So that is an advantage that I think she has in regards to even addressing something anti-war in our society,
right,
which turns people,
which we're not even allowed to talk about.
Yeah,
as far as mainstream media goes.
Yeah,
you know?
You can't bring that up. You can't bring.
It's
that
un-American
up
to not be pro-war.
Right.
This is Ram Redbud says Joe Rogan's a gatekeeper. He will Hunger Games all of us. I think people need to watch out when they go on a Rogan show, because Rogan, you know, he says he's not real bright, and people think he's not real bright, but I think he's pretty bright, and he will trip people up with just basic questions like, you know,
spell toady.
Like, you know, what do you mean by toady? That's just basic. If you're going to come on and if you're a journalist coming on, you should have answers.
I think
Joe will
people
trip people
okay.
up. Yeah.
I think informed people are okay.
Yeah, she's clearly not, but
yeah.
But yeah, Joe. I mean, he's smarter than people give him credit for. And he just asked the simplest questions that you would expect other journalists to ask that they never do. So props to Joe for that. That's why I watched the show.
Yeah, that's sort of they're long, so you got.
I watch the clips more than the whole show, unless there's certain guests on there. And I'll watch those.
There's certain
There's
guests.
Just too many shows in the world every day. It's like
there's so much.
It's like 24 hours a day, and I've been sent like 30 hours of video. So
yeah,
I'm gonna have to take clips of some of this stuff. And Joe Rogan's one of those with his 3-hour podcast sometimes. Yeah. But
dude,
yeah,
we tried to listen to like 2.5 hours of that Alex Jones interview, and there's 5 hours, and I'm like, how the fuck did you do that?
Right.
That like 14 minutes in, he's bringing like humanoid chimeras and shit, and it's just like, what is happening? We're 14 minutes in. I'm pro. I would say at this point I'm pro Tulsi. I don't see anything so glaring that we have to kind of be like, oh no, this is a problem, and try to nip it in the bud. The Democrats have
problems.
Lots
of problems.
They have a lot of like winning the people back over that they need to do. So,
but they're not going down the path that's going to do that. The path of transparency, and unrigged primaries, get rid of super delegates. You're not doing these things. I can't trust you.
Yeah.
But I think Tulsi's the best of the Democrats. Bernie's the only other one to consider. The rest are not progressives. No. They will not get my vote, not Warren. I do like Andrew Yang. He's bringing a topic of discussion to the table, but he won't get my vote. But I do like to see him on the stage. I do wish Richard Ojeda would have been on the stage. He would have brought some interesting things and like to discuss. He wouldn't have got my vote either, but I can respect him. But Warren on down, the rest of them, they're just hard nose, hard pass. No neoliberals. A couple of them, they might have one or two policies. That's okay, but it doesn't make up for the mess that they're going to be. They're going to continue wars. They're not going to fix the election system. They're not going to stop being cozy with Wall Street. So, but I will say Tulsi went on an independent media tour yesterday around Los Angeles. I don't know if you saw any of them. She talked to Jimmy Dore. She talked to Kim Iverson, which that one hadn't come out yet. She talked to Nico House and Convo Couch, did one with her.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
And then I saw some ones with some smaller people that I'm not familiar with that I didn't get a chance to watch. But I will say, if there's any hope of any of these coming on my little humble show here, I will reach out to Tulsi if she comes and campaigns in Louisville. I will try to get her on for you guys. Obviously, no guarantee she is Tulsi Gabbard, but if any candidate will do it, I will try. If Andrew Yang comes out here, I'll reach out to him or any of them. But I can really only see Tulsi as being the only one that could even consider.
Yeah, she seems like she's a little bit more open to being on some smaller shows that have different voices. I am not familiar with the Fair Farm Bill, actually. I'll have to do my due diligence on that one.
I haven't went deep into it, but that's the one that legalized hemp. Which I think is very necessary.
It is. I don't know what else is in that bill, because usually they try to sneak some shit.
Oh yeah, that's another.
There's always some sneaky shit.
That's a whole other topic here. We can have any of these great policies that a lot of people are talking about, but look who the people who are implementing these policies. Do you really trust? You want Medicare for all. Do you trust this Congress to implement that in a way that'll work? Right. If you want the Green New Deal, do you trust this Congress to implement a real Green New Deal and not a corporate giveaway? Do you? I don't. I'm going to have to see. I'm going to have to see more from Congress, more from the Dems. Doing the right thing, doing things transparently. Until then, I'm not going to buy it. We'll keep pushing for it, but this isn't Missouri, but you got to show me. I'm going to look into that Fair Farm Bill and see what else is in there. I'm sure Chris probably will too, but unfortunately we don't have a whole lot of feedback for you on that right now, Paul. But if you have any links, please drop them in there and we'll check those out. So we still got another topic to go here. I do want to thank you all for watching, and please share it out if you like it. My little humble show here, episode number 1. Just for those of you who missed it, Chris just got off stage. We were going to do this show in the club, but they have multiple other things going on. It's extremely loud, and we basically had to resort to the car. So that's why this is going on like this. It was totally unplanned, but you know, we'll go with what we got here. So continuing on, man. You've been a progressive comedian, or just a comedian in general, for how long now?
I've been doing stand-up for almost 14 years.
14?
14 in April.
Has it always been political?
No, not always. You kind of start with what you know. So I started when I was 16, so it was a lot of like making fun of my family. I think the only political joke that I wrote in my first set was about Benito Mussolini. So I was
as a 16-year-old. Do you remember that joke?
No, the gist of it was like, it was him invading Ethiopia. Like, he decided to invade Ethiopia, and it was just like, what is happening in Ethiopia that you would think is like a military stronghold? And everybody thought it was a joke, but they took him seriously. When they realized he's being serious, the whole tone changed because he's a fascist leader. So it was kind of in that realm. It was just a weird, fun joke that I wrote. I didn't really start getting political. I mean, I wanted to do political comedy since I was in college. It's just like, when you're 18, 19, you're still forming what your beliefs are.
Right.
So it's like, it's very difficult to be like, to put out what you believe in when what you're believing in is changing all the time, and you're finding out who you are as a person. So it was a lot more like lighter, jokes about like doing laundry and, talking about race and religion a little bit. But again, it's like you're still forming your ideas about what those mean. And I was like a fervent atheist, and it's like, if you believe in God, you're dumb, kind of like that sort of. So I don't think I was approaching it in the nuanced sense, or like a more understanding sense, that'll get people on board with talking about secular, free-thinking ideas. So until I was maybe about 23, I really didn't approach any sort of heavy, like, ideological based humor, like talking about like philosophy and stuff like that. And even then, it was not awesome. Like, it was super difficult to address it on stage, because it's like the first time you're doing it. So a lot of it was just like me just ham-fisting and heavy-handedly talking about ideas that I think I need to talk about. But once you kind of start getting more comfortable with it, so probably for like the last 4 or 5 years, I've been consistently talking about more progressive ideologies on stage, more secular, free-thinking type ideologies on stage.
You've been touring the country this whole time, since then? Mostly?
Since 2012, yeah. I've been working the road since 2012-ish. So like around 2011 is when I was going out there and doing different cities and, meeting people and making connections. And then, around then is when I really started hitting the road, and the last couple of years has been, trying to form a show and have a point to it, and trying to find like who wants to come see this sort of stuff, like building an audience around my material, rather than just being like, here's a random comedy show that I'm going to do a bunch of, progressive politics,
right,
and probably bring the mood way down. Like, that's, because like going on stage and just being like, hey guys, guess what? There's no anti-war movement in the world, and we fucking need one. And everybody's like, ah, shit. Well, I guess we'll order several more drinks now, because we're all sad.
That's why I got that extra drink. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I know, obviously I've been to several of your shows now, and I know you do the meet and greet afterward, and you talk to people, and I'm sure you get a lot of opinions. You're in a lot of places. So over the years, have you seen a shift in like the opinions you're getting afterward, the way people are talking about your sets now as opposed to when you were first coming around? Do you think there's more of a progressive shift? Have you not noticed a shift at all, or what do you think?
I think a little bit. I think there's definitely a shift. It's interesting. I would say like more or less, I've had more conservative leaning people come out to the shows.
Really?
And talk to me about like either I never thought about it that way, or yeah, man, I know exactly what you're talking about, and then we'll talk, and the reason why they like what I'm doing is because they belong to this like weird fringe form of conservatism or what have you, that does kind of lean a more progressive anyway, and a lot, so it's interesting in that sense. I've gotten a lot more liberals to be mad at me because I criticize liberals and I criticize the left.
In your defense, they're just mad. They're just mad.
No, I know. They're super upset, but it's like it's not Russia's fault. It's like no, I'm pretty sure we've been fucking with our elections just fine. Like so I don't go down those. I don't believe in that conspiracy theory, and we just found out that it's legitimately a conspiracy theory. So there has been a shift towards being a little bit more progressive, but more than that, I think there's been a little bit more of a I'm trying to be more understanding shift.
Interesting.
Which I think is good. It's not all there yet, because I think people are going to be what they are, and they're going to need somebody to blame. The disappointing thing I think about that is like they choose to blame other people rather than the systems that have been put into place to keep them where they are, to keep them kind of dulcet, and keep them stressed, and keep them more worried, and not be able to like fight for a better tomorrow and take part in these progressive activist movements and things of that sort. I think that's kind of disappointing, but I try not to get mad at these people. But I've gotten a lot more critiques from the left for not being harsh enough on the right.
The left or the left?
The left, whatever that means.
Like the Dems, the Blues.
Yeah. I would say, I would definitely say, like, if you're a mainstream Democrat and they've come to see my show, they have not left happy. Because I'm not propping up their party. Like, I'm not going up there and trying to shit on the Republicans because it's the same fucking party,
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to skirt around these opinions, though I am trying to figure out an easy way to communicate it to you, so that if you are someone that vehemently supports the Democratic Party because they are the Democratic Party, I'm trying to figure out how to talk to you so that if I come out and say, like, hey, they're also corrupt, you're not immediately shutting down. Like coming out and saying, like, Obama is owned by the banks is not immediately an argument of, like, well, this is all bullshit, It's like, I'm not saying he's Trump-level bad, but he did set some stuff up that helped Trump become Trump-level bad. Like, it's all a succession. Obama wasn't perfect. Whoever comes next isn't going to be perfect. Are they going to do their best? Yeah. Are they going to achieve some stuff? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But, I guess the point is, whatever I'm talking about in my comedy is more about people than it is about positions of power. And as long as I make it about people, I think I'll get more conservatives that are willing to listen to progressive ideologies and, not come out and say, like, oh, you're a socialist, so you're evil. It's a very, very tricky way to, like, do comedy. Yeah. Because I'm not.
You have a very unique style.
Oh,
of comedy. Yeah.
It's hard, but because I don't want people that might have a religious bend, or might have a conservative bend, or might have a super liberal bent to come to a show, and if I talk about some things that is uncomfortable or that goes against something that they believe in, I'm not calling you dumb. I'm just saying, like, hey, it's okay that you believe this thing. You can always change that belief. And when you do, you can also educate other people that have believed the same things you have, and it's gonna be fine. Like, we're all gonna get through this shit together, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so I think people are willing to at least hear out more progressive ideas, you know, packaged into jokes and stories. So, yeah, it's getting there.
It's a tough job, man. It is a tough job. I couldn't do it, you know. I would get up there, start talking about some of these subjects, start to get to the punchline. I mean, I'm like, just screw it, man. Everything's bad. We got a lot of work to do. I don't know what else to say, you know. But thanks for coming out.
Yeah. Some nights that's what it is. Some nights I'm just like, yeah, we got a lot of shit to figure out. Fuck, I'm depressed. All right.
On to the jokes.
Yeah.
All right, you got anything else you want to address before we get out of here? You guys have any questions for us in the meantime?
Thank you for watching. Thank you for having me, man.
Tell people where, you know, you're on tour. You just started a tour, right? So where can they see you coming up?
I'm going to be in Pittsburgh next week doing the Pittsburgh Fringe, and then I'm heading back into the Midwest. I'm going to be in Indianapolis. Where else am I going? Bloomington, Illinois. Coming up to Des
tell
Moines.
Some indie friends you're coming.
Oh, yeah.
See if they get out. Yeah.
That show's a bookstore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm very excited about that show. There's books and there's booze. It's great. And then I'm going up to Omaha, Minneapolis, Chicago, Milwaukee. I just added Milwaukee. The best way to find all of my tour dates is on my website, which is ramennoodlescomedy.com. It's RAMAN noodlescomedy.com. You can check out all my dates and keep up with all the videos and stuff that I post there, and all my social media links are up there as well. So it's the easiest way to find my stuff. Yeah,
check him out, and then if he comes to your town, come check it out. Bring your friends. It's a very unique comedy. It's very political, deep stuff, but he does a great job. He just did a new set tonight, and really funny stuff. So
thanks, man.
You guys will appreciate that. I appreciate you being on the show, man. As the first guest, and you're always welcome on. I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Hell yeah.
So signing off here, just want to thank you guys for tuning in. As you can tell, I'm not really that comfortable with cameras and stuff yet, but I'm working on that. We're going to build this show. I'm going to get better at that. Trying to keep this an interactive show, so we're always want to do this for you and bring people out for you guys to learn from and to talk to. So I know I did my first teaser early in the show. I want to follow up on that. April 4th, next week, episode number 2. I have a really cool guest coming on. I have Jeffrey Young scheduled to come on. He is a Democratic candidate for governor this year in Kentucky, so he's more progressive than the rest. He has some very interesting views that differ greatly from the rest of the party. So tune in for that. I'll create an event for that once we get a time stamped out. But yeah, real excited about that. Thank you so much, Politics and Stuff, Paul, for giving me this platform, and you know, we're going to try to run with it. Again, if you're a local activist, anybody working for the community, you want to come on, talk about your work, get a hold of me, and you know, we'll see what we can do. So on that note, we're going to sign off, and I'm going to say always think critically.